Have you ever looked at a piece of paper, like, say, a tax bill, a court summons, or a draft notice, and realized it literally holds the physical power to completely upend your life? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely brilliant philosophical text that decodes the hidden physical mechanics of how state power actually operates on us. If you've ever watched the news and wondered how invisible written laws manage to exert such tangible physical force over our everyday lives, you are in the exact right place. We're going to unpack a highly revealing framework that explains, step by step, how the abstract becomes inescapably real. Okay, let's take a super quick look at our roadmap. We're going to cover 1. Anatomy of state power, 2. Two kinds of grounding, 3. Violence as force grounding, 4. The political hallucination, and finally, 5. The ultimate truth of power. Let's jump right in. Section 1. Anatomy of state power, the abstract state. So to really get this, we have to start by realizing that the state itself is actually a highly abstract entity. It exists largely as just a collection of invisible words and symbols. Think about it. You can't actually touch a state in the physical world. If you try to grab it, you just end up grabbing a building or a person. So the absolute crucial point here is understanding a concept called grounding, or as the source text calls it, japji. This is the exact moment those abstract words touch down into the messy, physical reality of our lives. Without this grounding process, a government is really just a collection of ideas floating in the ether, completely harmless. Grounding is the mechanism that actually gives a concept teeth. It's how a purely mental idea connects to the actual senses, the material conditions, and the lived experiences of biological human beings. Think about the state's abstract vocabulary for a second. Words like law, security, or citizen. Now think about the utter absurdity of words on their own. A word cannot physically lock someone in a room. A word definitely cannot guard a line in the sand, right? For those words to have any actual power, they desperately require physical grounding devices. They need police officers, military forces, prisons, tax collectors, physical borders, real things to interact with the physical world. The abstract has absolutely zero power without a physical anchor to enforce it. The concept entirely relies on kinetic, physical reality to bring it into existence. And this is how it happens. It's a highly engineered pipeline from the invisible to the physical, meticulously designed to ensure compliance. Step 1. A law is written on paper, which is completely harmless on its own. But then Step 2 kicks in. Bureaucrats classify you based on that law. You literally become a file, a specific designation in a massive database. Then, in Step 3, physical systems intervene based entirely on that file. The police are dispatched, or a border gate is closed. And finally, Step 4. Your physical body must comply. The power descends from a symbolic order, passes through administrative filing, applies physical force, and ends with actual bodily obedience or pain. Section 2. Two kinds of grounding, living versus forced. Now that we see exactly how power descends through this pipeline, we need to look at a stark contrast. Because, you see, not all grounding is created equal. We have a fluid, bottom-up living grounding versus a harsh, top-down forced grounding. In living grounding, human experience actually shapes the law. It's bottom-up. The state listens, and if a law causes undue suffering, the law is dynamically changed to reflect reality. But in forced grounding, it's strictly top-down. The state doesn't care about the pain. It forces the physical world to blindly bend to its abstract will, completely regardless of the human cost. Let's look at the healthy version for a minute. A healthy democracy isn't just about majority rule. It's a living, breathing feedback system. It's filled with vital grounding mechanisms that ensure power doesn't just float away into dangerous abstraction. Things like procedural justice, a free press, minority rights, these aren't just feel-good buzzwords. They are literally the essential sensory organs of the state. And this is exactly why these institutions matter so much to your daily life. They are the only things keeping the state connected to your actual reality, modifying the system so you don't have to suffer. They make sure the state feels the pain of its citizens and adjusts. Moving on to Section 3, violence as forced grounding, the body as canvas. But what happens when that feedback loop is cut? What happens when the state loses those sensory organs and its abstract system fails to sense its own errors? Well, state violence. And it is not just arbitrary brutality. It is the sharp, kinetic act of carving administrative labels directly onto human bodies and physical spaces. If the state calls you a citizen, it grounds that concept by physically taking your taxes or drafting you into service. If it classifies you as a criminal, it physically places your body in a cage. If you are labeled an enemy, the physical reality becomes surveillance, exclusion, or even lethal force. The violence itself is the grounding device connecting the paperwork to reality. This kind of violence fundamentally alters our existence. It aggressively chops up the messy reality of living, breathing humans just to perfectly fit the state's sterile administrative symbols. A breathing, complex human being with hopes and fears is coldly reduced to a management target. Someone seeking a better life is cropped down to the harsh term illegal alien. Even death is stripped of its profound tragedy, turning a unique person into a mere number on a spreadsheet, or worse, collateral damage. The state forces life to fit its rigid categories and forcefully discards whatever beautiful or tragic parts simply don't fit the paperwork. Which brings us to Section 4, the political hallucination, the disconnected state. This introduces a totally fascinating modern metaphor from the source material to explain what happens when the state completely loses touch with the life layer beneath it. Think about how artificial intelligence works. When an AI loses its tether to real data, it doesn't just politely shut down, right? It generates confident but entirely false outputs. It cites fake court cases or invents historical events with absolute certainty. That's an AI hallucination. Similarly, when a state loses its tether to human pain, it generates political hallucinations. It creates devastating physical violence while blindly chanting abstract mantras like, "for the sake of order" or "for national security." But here's the thing. A hallucinating state is infinitely more dangerous than a chatbot, because unlike a computer program, a hallucinating state possesses the military, the police force, and the prisons to make its delusions violently real. Finally, Section 5, the ultimate truth of power, the ultimate reality. We've reached the absolute bedrock of the source text here. When all those abstract layers finally run out, we face this ultimate reality. The state's absolute bottom is ultimately the body. When laws fail to persuade, when ideology just isn't believed anymore, and when words become completely hollow, the state's final grounding device isn't a better argument. It is the physical confinement and pain of the human body. Whether the state is attempting to gently persuade you or aggressively force you, the final destination, the ultimate arena of politics, is always biology. It's your physical body. And this brings us to the core realization of our entire explainer. A healthy system will adapt its laws to protect its people, while an ungrounded system will physically break its people to protect its laws. Really think about the massive difference between those two realities. One system treats human life as the master, and the law as a flexible servant meant to aid that life. The other system treats the abstract law as the absolute master, and the living human body as something entirely expendable, something to be manipulated, confined, and reshaped until it stops resisting. So, as we wrap up this analysis today, I want you to look past the usual daily news cycle. Look past the endless political debates and ask yourself this final, lingering question about the hidden mechanics of your own society. Is your society modifying its laws to protect lives, or is it modifying bodies to protect its laws? Keep that question in the back of your mind the next time you hear a politician speak in abstract symbols. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep questioning the foundations of the world around you.